Welcome to another episode on Key Talks. So, on this episode, I had the great opportunity to speak with an individual by the name of Chad. And Chad has a company that he started called Beyond Borders. And it's an educational company that's targeted at helping Canadians really learn and understand how to invest in US markets, specifically for real estate, because that's what he's in. And I learned a lot. He's very experienced. He has a lot of knowledge to share. And I'm very grateful for the conversation and some of the things that I even learned. And I'm pretty sure you guys are going to get a lot of value out of this conversation as well. I'm going to drop his social media links, and I'm going to drop his website link in the comment section below. So make sure you guys check it out. Enjoy the show. Hey, Chad. How you doing, man? How are you today?
I'm good, Keith. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for hopping on the call for me. I really appreciate it, man.
No, not a problem. I'm glad to finally connect with you and get a chance to have a good conversation with you today.
I know it's hard to meet a lot of Canadians that want to invest in America and then are making the move as well. And I know that's something that you're in the process of doing right now. So when we start there, how'd you get started in like U.S. real estate as a Canadian?
Yeah, you're right. It is hard to find like people in our circle, especially like our age group, our demographic, that are willing to kind of think outside the box and go across the border. How it started for me is I actually went to school in the US. So, yeah, like a little background. I'm a Toronto chiropractor. I've been practicing this is actually my 10th year, so a decade now of practice. And yeah, and it's been really good. I went to school just outside of Syracuse University. So like in up New York, they call it like the Finger Lakes region. And I was there from 2009 to 2013. And so the first year I lived on campus, like most kids do when they go to school. And then we had to move off campus. Yeah. And when we moved off campus, I roomed with 4 other guys. So we found this home that was like close by the water. Like they have some really nice lakes there. And we found this really old house. It was like a relic of a house, but it was huge. And it had 5 bedrooms, and the 5 of us guys, we rented this house on the water. And at that time in 2009, all of us were paying, I believe it was almost $500 a month to live there. So it was $25 coming into this house. So I was like, wow, $2,500 for this house. It was super rundown. Like when I say like super rundown, like you wouldn't even really want to like shower in it. Like obviously we're guys and you're a student and you just kind of like, you're like, hey, whatever, like this is cheaper than being on campus. We'll take it. And we like the water or whatnot. So it worked in that sense, but it was a terrible home. And basically, when you look up the price of what that home actually was worth, that home was bought for like $95,000.
Oh, and wow.
And they were collecting $2,500 a month in rent. So,
what year was this again? I'm trying to
2009.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, you could buy it for 2% back then.
Or 2010. So 2009 I started. In 2010 we moved off of So it was just crazy. So like we looked into that, and obviously as a student, we're kind of broke. We don't have any money. Everything's going towards tuition. But it was always in the back of my head that like, maybe this would be something in the future that we'd want to like look into, like how can we purchase a home here and how can we rent it out to students? My father is also a builder. He builds homes in Toronto. So he also kind of, he a lot of home renovations, those kind of projects. So he put that kind of like bug in my ear really early. And then just one like other little caveat, right before I went to school for being a chiropractor in the US, I wrote my real estate exams, 2 of 3 in Toronto that summer before I got accepted. So like the real estate was always on my mind. It was just, I got accepted to school and then I was like, okay, I'm going to go. Yeah. So that got put on the back burner. And then like fast forward, we finished school. I waited a few years, got a little bit of money, and then decided with some friends, we were like, we want to buy a place. Where can we buy a place? And we looked and we thought about buying something in Toronto, and it was just like really expensive still, even at that time.
When was this?
This was I want to say this was in about 2018. And
Okay, wow. Okay, fast
this
forward
was,
to like 9 years.
fast
11,
forwarded
yeah.
a few years. Yeah, fast forwarded a few years to 2018. And then I decided, because we had made a plan for 2 years, we were going to save some money. So like 2016, we
Yeah.
decided to save some money. And after the 2 years of saving money, we decided, okay, let's buy something. And nothing in Toronto was making sense for like the numbers. Like, okay, we're going to buy this rental property here, but we're not really going to cash flow it. Like, does this make sense for us?
Yeah.
So I said, let's look back in the US. I feel comfortable there. I went to school there. Let's buy something there. And that's what we did. So in the summer of 2018, we ended up buying a property right where I went to school. We spent a little bit on renovations and we put our first tenant in there. And that was kind of the beginning of how we got started.
How much? What was the property like? How much did you buy for? It was a student rental, I'm assuming, right? Or no?
No, the crazy part is we missed the market for the student rentals. So we bought summer with the expectation it was going to be ready for September for school.
Yeah.
And they had a like crazy long delay for closing. And by the time we actually got the property and then we did a little bit of renovations to it, it was already after September. It was like almost October. And we tried to put it up at the school to see what was happening. And if we could get someone in, it was too late. So we missed that market. So we're like, oh man, we just put it up online.
Yeah.
And we got a regular family that moved in there. And they were actually a Section 8 family. We didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
And we got a Section 8 family that moved in there. And they lived there for about 4 years. They just moved out last year.
Do you want to explain what a Section 8 is quickly?
Yeah. For those that don't know, Section 8 is like a program, a government-sponsored program where families that can get put on this program or put into this system, they can rent homes in maybe what might be better areas than you would traditionally think for like a rental. And the government pays, let's say 80 to 90% of their rent, and they only have to cover like a small portion of it. So they get put into the program. And I think it's actually a really good program because you won't be renting in like, let's say like the slums or like,
no, it'll be like C class, upper C class, right?
Yeah. Right. So like they can apply for any rental anywhere. So the landlord has like the ability to say kind of like yes or no or whatnot. But it just gives families and individuals a chance to rent in maybe some nicer areas. And then it kind of like helps you think about how to like not rent, right, in the future. Yeah. So towards home ownership and all those kind of things. So it's like kind of like that sponsorship type of program to like say, here, we're going to get you started and let's push you forward to that next journey of maybe home ownership down the line. But I think Section 8 is a great, especially for landlords, because at the end of the day, they're paying, the government pays consistently on like the 1st or the 5th of every month. Yeah, during COVID, when people lost their jobs, things like that, like our tenants all, like everything was paid. Like literally the government would pay 100%. Like
that's amazing. Yeah.
So Section 8 is actually a great program, I think.
How's the appreciation though? Because it's not really like your typical B class location that you're looking for. You're looking for like C class kind of, right? Or upper C class. So are you still seeing like good appreciation? Because I know like in cash flow markets, typically you see a lot less appreciation than you would in markets that have, mostly appreciation and very little cash flow.
Yeah. Yeah. So for us, we're still seeing appreciation. I mean, I think every market will appreciate, to a certain percent, right? So, I mean, before COVID, traditionally, like most homes would appreciate like 3 to 4% a year, right? Like that's normal. COVID kind of like flipped everything upside down. And then like some markets were appreciating like 50%. In some of our like smaller, like more secondary, tertiary markets, I would say like our appreciation was more so. It went up quite a bit during COVID.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, like every single other property.
That was printing money.
But I would say like you probably during the last couple of years, it was probably like 10 to 15%. Appreciation. Yeah. So like just to put it, for example, that house that we bought like 5 years ago, we bought that home for $86,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And we put about, let's call it, I think at that time we put about like 9 or 10,000. It was just like a really cosmetic like lipstick on it just to get it ready for.
So about just under 100K all in.
Yeah. So just under 100K all in. That house right now on Zillow is saying $146,000 that it's worth. And I know that just like some of the homes that have sold in that area have all sold for in between like 135 and 150.
Yeah.
So like it's still gone up, right?
Yeah.
And like
what's the rent in that market?
So right now we're renting that house for $1,500 a month.
Okay.
Same house.
Nice.
House, right? So, and when you factor in everything, that house right now, cash flow is like $526 a month USD, right?
That's really
and,
good.
Yeah.
What are you doing with the cash flow? Because like this is another thing that like I've experienced. Like even when I purchase properties up in like Sault Ste. Marie, for example, because I've done that, right?
Yeah.
Like I bought a property that was what $150,000. And I rented it for $1,600 a month. We were cash flowing about like almost $300 a month. But then because it's an older property, there's just the maintenance is not 5%. It's more like 15%. The capex is not 5%. It's more like 10 or 12. You have to account for that, right? And over the year, it ended up being that I calculated all the problems that we had to pay for. It ended up being like $50 a month that I actually took home, right? And the way I see it is like I don't really feel like cash flow. I feel like cash flow is meant to like keep the property alive. So then I'm trying to figure out how exactly is it that when you build a BRRRR business or when you build like the buy and hold business, how is it that you actually pay yourself?
Yeah.
What have you figured out for that? I know it's a tough question.
No. So like, for us, like, so for our business, so like at Beyond Borders, like I'll get into that later on. So we partner on most of our deals, or I partner on all my deals with different individuals, and everybody's a little bit different as far as what their expectations are on the property and the project. And what I would say is that for the most part right now, most individuals have elected almost not to really pay themselves. So we take the profits that we have and we either keep them in another account and we grow that account so that way we can purchase new properties in the future because we're trying to scale, we're trying to grow.
Right.
And some partners have also elected to say, okay, you know what? Let's just pay down our mortgage, right? So for that first house, I'll just keep using that as an example. Me and my partners decided that, you know what, we'll take our $526 every single month. And instead of just paying the three of us and splitting that up when, we're all working and we don't necessarily need that cash flow right now, why don't we just take it and we're just going to pay down that mortgage. And then one day when we do go back to the bank, we're going to have, nothing going on it. We'll refinance it. The house is going to be worth 150, 160, 170. We'll take out 80% or whatever, 75%, and then we'll go and we'll buy more. Because at the end of the day, like you said, the cash flow, it depends on your situation. So if you're working and you're comfortable with your job and that's not a big issue and you're not looking to just leave your job and you don't need that cash flow right away, then maybe you're not looking to pay yourself truly from it. It's a different story where if this is really like something where you're like, I want to get out of my job. I can't stand being there. I have like a 2-year goal to get out of my job. Then you're going to look really strongly at that cash flow. And you're going to get hit with the maintenance and things like that because of the type of properties that you're working with. But if there's a big enough spread from there and you have enough of them and there's a good enough scale to it, then it's something that you should be able to, not retire, but quit your job and, focus on those type of properties. But for us, I would say that right now, we've elected to say maybe have a 3 or a 5-year goal where we don't really touch that cash flow. We reinvest all of it. We see what we can accumulate and acquire. And then from there, if we decide, okay, now we've built up a little portfolio, we have, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 properties. Now let's look and say, okay, how much from these do we feel comfortable taking to pay us? And then that will either go on top of our salaries, or if someone decides, hey, I'm good, I can step away from my job, we step away.
Yeah, that's like, I feel like that's a lot of things, like that's something that a lot of people don't understand, that even when they get into real estate, they think, hey, if I just get 5 properties, the cash flow from that, I'll be good. But it's not true. You need an active income, a source of active income, right? Like, passive income isn't as real as you think it is. It's meant to help you grow the portfolio, not to, pay for your lifestyle.
100%.
It's
not. It's hard to do. It's really, really hard to do that, especially in today's market and today's interest rates. If I were to tell someone, and when I'm advising my clients, I make it perfectly clear to them that, yes, we can find you some cash flowing properties. And, it might not be at the 25, 30% that I was seeing literally like all of our properties before were like ridiculous cash on cash
Return.
percentage. Yeah, it was crazy. But like now I have to like be realistic and say, hey, listen, you might have to put more money down to see that cash flow, but obviously that's going to decrease your cash on cash return percentage. But at the same time, you need that cash flow to support your business or support your property. So, we're kind of changing our strategy or just the way that we're speaking to people and saying like, listen, you just have to understand that your return might not be as great, but at the same time, hopefully, rates will drop, things will change a little bit in the next year or two. And when they do, it will give you an opportunity to potentially get out of that interest rate, get into something a little bit better. And then that cash flow or that cash on cash return can go back up again. But, just get in the game.
Yeah. So when you say clients, you're talking about capital partners, right? Because like, I'm assuming is it a BRRRR business or is it just a buy and hold like turnkey properties business? Which one is it that you've like focused on?
So Beyond Borders we're not really a BRRRR business.
No, okay.
So we are basically like an investment consulting business person.
Sweet.
Yeah. So the whole premise of Beyond Borders is one, the educational component. So we're launching a whole bunch of educational platforms, courses, things like that. How to educate Canadians, millennials on how to get into US real estate. That's one element. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to like the actual investing side of it, basically what we're going to be doing is consulting with those individuals who do want to buy. And we're going to be walking them through the process from like A to Z, as far as what you need to know, the taxes, where to go, who to go to, the lawyer, estate planning, just making sure that you're as comfortable as possible with the process for like a long-term hold, a short-term, a midterm rental, whatever you want to buy. We'll help you and guide you along that process and make sure you understand everything you need to go and steer you in the right direction. And then for us, if we decide, we find the deal for you, right? So we go out, we find X property, we love it, you love it. We'll decide, like, let's partner up. We'll create a JV agreement between the parties, and then we'll go in and we'll partner and we'll run it. Beyond Board is also like, we have a property management arm down there as well.
Sweet.
And then we'll property manage it, so that way the person doesn't have to think about like tenants and toilets and all the other stuff that comes.
Yeah. What market, or is it any market?
Well, we're going to be focusing really throughout the U.S., but predominantly we're in New York State, we're in Michigan, we're in Alabama. And then I'm looking at, Alabama as well, Huntsville, Alabama specifically. And then I'm looking at a few other southern markets, Tennessee, Arkansas, just some of those markets like where you see that there's still a lot of room for growth, like up that curve.
So what about like the Sunbelt states? No, Texas, Florida. It's too overpriced.
You know what? I'm kind of overpriced.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say totally overpriced, but they're a little expensive. And like when you're looking at that, like, so if we are talking about cash flow, like if you're looking at that return that you want, if you're buying a property that's already 500,000 plus, just the numbers just don't really pencil out as much because, you're only going to get so much for rent, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to keep our buy box within, let's just say, 150 to 350, somewhere in the buy box. So that way, we can hit that 1% rule and above, right? So something along those lines.
Sweet. So every time you're making sure that you're trying to meet the 1% rule. And, for those who don't know, 1% rule, if you buy a house for $100,000, 1% of that is $1,000 a month. So that's what the rent should be, right? And that way you have enough cash flow to pay for the maintenance, any capital expenditures or anything else. And plus, if you have anything left over, that will pretty much pay for like your business expenses because now you're growing an actual business. And there's two things that you said, like one is like educating people, because I feel, especially Canadian, because I feel like there's a lot of information out there, but nothing is like really structured unless you hire a lawyer and pay a lot of money for that.
And a lot of money,
which is what I did, right? And the other, and about that, like, or the other thing is the fact that you're doing JVs. So like when you're structuring these JVs, let's say it's just a capital partner who has money, who is interested, like in terms of like let's say it's a BRRRR as well, right? And they're doing the full BRRRR. Like, do they have an opportunity to exit if they want it, or like how are you structuring your deals, or is it dependent on each person?
It's still dependent on each person, but we always have a caveat in the partnership agreement where we reevaluate the situation after 3 years, 5 years, 7 and 10, right? So there's always an evaluation period, and even in between those, we still leave it open up for like discussion and conversation about what we want to do. So there's quarterly meetings, there's monthly meetings with our investors to make sure that everybody's on the same page. But at 3, 5, 7, and 10, we always will be looking to say, okay, so we're 3 years in. Do we want to refinance? Do we want to sell? Do we want to stay status quo because everything is going smoothly and we like where we're at? So we give everybody the opportunity to speak up and say, hey, this is what we want to do. This is what I think the benefits are of X. And this is why I think that we should do that. So we kind of go through that stage, and it seems to work really, really well. And we're just really transparent in the sense that, like, if you invested a certain amount of money, if the property is cash flowing a certain amount of money, you're entitled to that percentage of your money, right? Yeah. So if it makes $1,000 a month net after everything, and you are a 25% partner, you're entitled to do that $250. Like, obviously we have a plan, whether it is to reinvest it or whatnot, but we're not going to say that money is trapped. You can't touch it. Leave it alone.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a kind of a back and forth, but at the same time, before we even go into the partnership, we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and understanding that it's a long-term growth, and not the short-term, like, hey, give me that cash flow right now. Let's go out and, buy a car. Let's do that. Like, we're not really, that type of partnership wouldn't work for us.
Yeah. So what kind of returns are you looking at typically in those markets? Like for like a capital partner, let's say, I don't know, the capital partner comes in with like 25 grand, everything else is just financed through like, hard money loan or like mortgages. You finish the BRRRR, like, are they getting like, are you promising like a 3% or 5%, a 10%? Like what's like pretty average for those markets?
Yeah, I would say like, well, if you're talking about just like the cash on cash, we're like what we.
No, I mean like the monthly cash flow, what they can expect.
Well, yeah. So like you have to go for like on a percentage, right?
Yeah.
So normally you would say like, what you can expect from this deal and what we try to hit is consistently is like 10.5%. Like
wow.
that's
good. That's really good.
Yeah. Okay. With any deal. So, let's just say we have 8 properties right now. Right.
Yeah.
And for those 8 properties, all of those properties, except for one, is over that 10.5% cash on cash return. Every single one. And, some of them are like 35 and some of them are like 25 and some of them are 12. And, we have like a 10 and then we have another one that's a 6. Like, so
each one's different.
Each one's a little bit different, but going into the deal, like I'll say, hey, listen, this is the breakdown. We'll underwrite the deal. And I'll say, okay, on this property, I love the area. I think you're going to get some appreciation, X, Y, and Z. Now, this is the return that I believe that you're going to get. And this is what we're going to try to make sure that you achieve all the time, every single time.
That's awesome. Dude, like, I love how you structured that. And I think if you're able to like educate people too and help them even get started, that's going to build a lot of trust.
Yes.
Right. Because I know a lot of people are lost. Even me, I was lost when I first started because a lot of videos you see, as Canadians on YouTube or anywhere, it says, hey, open up an LLC, but you don't really want to do that as a Canadian off the bat. Because then
you definitely do not. That's a big.
You'll be a victim to like double taxation and a bunch of other stuff. How did you end up getting set up? Because I know everyone's a little bit different, and some of the laws recently changed with the CRA. And what I was advised was to open up a limited partnership. So I actually, I'm not sure if like, because I know like a bunch of other Canadians like that I've recently met who have invested in the States like in the previous years. They just had like a US C corporation, like a US corporation that owned like the LLCs, and then that's how they were paying themselves, or not paying themselves, but they were just, that C corporation would give a loan. Yeah, it would be like a pass-through entity. But then now CRA changed some laws. I'm not quite sure what it is, where maybe you can speak to that, right? Where like it doesn't qualify anymore, and then you can still get double taxed. And now I heard a lot of people are doing LP, so I just stuck with the LP. I had to pay a lawyer to find this out, but
we're the same. So I'm not exactly sure what I leave that to the accountant. I'm not exactly sure exactly what the CRA changed, so I'm not going to speak on that. But I've been advised from multiple accountants that the LP structure is the best way to go for a Canadian if you're going to use an entity, right?
Yeah.
You can still have an LLC, that LLC in the US is owned by an LP, which is still considered a pass through or flow through entity.
Yeah.
And then you, on the other side of the border, you own the LP. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anything from that LLC flows through to the LP, which then flows through to the Canadian individual, and then you do not get double tax. That's how the structure works in a simplified.
They actually made me open up everything. Like I also have a C corporation because the LP is a GPLP structure. So the general partner and then the limited partner and the C corp. Yeah. So that way, technically, I don't own the LP. I'm just a shareholder of the LP. Give myself in dividends. I'm just like, cool, whatever.
It's basically just how much you want to pay, because there's compliance with every element of an entity that you own, right? So like if you open up a C corp too, you're going to be filing corporate taxes.
Yeah.
And then there's certain documents that you have to file for that. And then the LP has partnership documents that you have to file. And then the LLC has other docs. So it just, like, the more entities that you create, of course, there's more protection. And then it has certain benefits, but it's also just a lot more complex, right? And then if you're just, let's just say someone's just getting started and they just want to buy their first, their second, even their third property, it's not something where I totally believe that it's necessary, so to speak, because that eats into everything that you're really trying to do. Because if you're growing a business and then everything is going towards, the accounting and the maintenance of the actual business, but you're not making any money, then you're really sacrificing and you're gonna really hurt your business. So it's a lot easier for someone to potentially just say, you know what, I'm gonna buy my first property with a Canadian bank like RBC or something like that. I will put it in my personal name, and then I'll buy a separate umbrella insurance insurance
as a rental property.
Separate insurance.
So you're getting insured.
Cover that, so that you'll have your own insurance, like for the property, but you'll have a separate protection insurance for that property. And then from there, you kind of feel a little bit more comfortable and confident. And then you can kind of get a couple of those under your belt. And then you can look to say, hey, now I'm making some money. Now I can afford to pay my accountant X, Y, and Z. Yeah, exactly.
So like, because another thing I noticed is because like here, like in Canada, I have a few units. I'm building up a small portfolio, and I've done it with some partners, and I'm considering like bringing the partners together. And I know that certain businesses have some structures, right? And because I'm trying to because there's a difference between being a solopreneur and an entrepreneur, right? And I know one of the basics is with the building an enterprise, you have like a lead generator. You have an acquisition guy or manager, and then you have the disposition side, right? And is that how you're structured as well? Or like what approach did you take? Because I know for wholesaling, that's what people usually do, right? Lead generator, acquisitions, and disposition, right? One guy to generate the leads and one guy to like negotiate and say this or that, and then the other guy to like sell the property or whatever, right? But then how are you building your team for the BRRRR business? Or like for the buy and hold business? Like what's the team there look like? Because I'm interested in business. So I'm always interested in finding out like how people are structuring that.
So really, our team is really small right now. So right now, I don't use any VAs or anything like that.
Yeah.
All of our deals have been sourced off of the MLS, and it's been me finding the deals.
So you're the lead generator.
I'm the lead generator. I do all the underwriting. I make sure that everything is good. And then what I'll do is I'll send it over to someone else to look at it, and we'll really take a deeper look. I have a mentor who's been in this business for like 30 years, and he's a developer, and he's got underwriting. He's got underwriting down to a science. And if I'm unsure about any little thing, I will ask him about it. But for the most part, we underwrite everything. And then as far as like the other parts of it, like the education, I have a partner who is a professor who deals with all the educational side of it. And then I have another individual who does all of our social media, all of our marketing.
Oh, nice.
So it's just really the three of us that kind of work together. So the education, the investment, and then the media and the marketing. And that's it.
Okay, that's awesome. I love it. It is a 3-person structure. You have one for marketing, one for social media. Yeah. So then, one for education, you said, and then one for social media, right? And then one for investment. So on the education side, I got to get them on a call to talk to. Like, how is it that you're building your education platform? Like, what is the first step that you're trying to like teach people as Canadians? Like, are you talking about like just like basic education stuff as like what Robert Kiyosaki will teach, like your primary house is not a residence, stuff like that? Or is there something different, more like, hey, you know what, open your structure first. This is how you open a structure. Or like, what's the first thing that you're trying to like teach people?
Yeah, I would say kind of the first thing is identifying, are you a right candidate for like investing cross border? So like really like getting people to realize, because it's not for everybody. Yeah. People don't have that risk tolerance. Some people just don't want to do it, and it's not something that they're even thinking about. So basically kind of first establishing, are you that type of person that is willing to look outside the box and kind of think outside that status quo, right?
Yeah.
That's the first part of it. And then once you realize that that's you are that type of person and that's something that you're thinking and you're interested in, then we can go into that. So we have like some ebooks, things like that, some courses that are going to be generated on all the like educational aspects of investing across the border.
Oh, sweet.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So really kind of just making sure that you understand the process. So
is there going to be a course, like a video course series like that?
There's going to be a course, yeah. So the first part, so we actually are launching an ebook at the end of this year. So they're working on it right now. And then that in the next like 3 weeks, that should be out. And it's just going to be like a short ebook, like 5 or 6 pages, but it's literally just about the basics. Let's call it cross-border investing 101.
Yeah.
Very basic. Just to kind of get you interested and see if it's something that you would love to do or like to do. And then once you've established that that's your thing, you really want to get into it, then we have the course, which goes into it in more detail and will kind of help you kind of get into that first deal.
Okay.
Yeah, get into that first deal. And then we go from there. So it's kind of like one step at a time. And then the last part of that is creating the community, right? So like me and you, right? Talking about this, being, entrepreneurs in that space, like building that community of Canadians, millennials, young people who are looking outside the box and like building a mastermind and getting everybody together and asking questions and how do we do this and where do we invest? Like all the questions that we're kind of like going over now, but putting it into like one package so that it's right there and like all the questions can be answered and we just grow the community. It's almost like a bigger pocket style community.
Right. Like you gotta do some in-person networking events. I think that will go really well.
That too.
Yeah. I'd be down for that. Yeah.
Yeah, like those are like you put on a nice like event, nice little gala, whatnot, and just like a meet and greet, right? Like a network meet and greet. Yeah. So it's building that community first. Like so, as long as we can build that out, and then people are really interested in it and being successful in it, then I think it's gonna just grow from there.
And let me know, like if you guys end up doing like an intermediate level real estate course. Then I wouldn't mind talking about. Remember, I told you like I do raps in Texas.
That's what I want to get into with you because I need to wrap my head around what a rap deal is.
Yeah, you gotta like be able to purchase the property subject to first and understand how that works because that's like the basis of it, right?
Subject to. So you're gonna have to explain to me what.
So it's pretty simple, really. Like, so let's say when you go to a property, like if you have a house and I'm buying the house from you, there's a mortgage. Right? And Pace Mortgage talks about this. It's all over social media too, right? You can see other videos as well, right? There's the mortgage itself, and you already have the mortgage in your name. But then there's a deed, and then there's a title. Title is how you own the property, right? So you can go, and I can, the purchase and sales agreement. I just write, hey, I will purchase your property existing to the subject to the existing mortgage, and just by doing that, the mortgage doesn't change, right? Yeah. So then now. Literally, you can get your transaction coordinator, you can go to the lawyer, you can go to the title company, whatever, and then you just have a subject amendment form. You can get that from your transaction coordinator or like the realtor can do it for you too, right? Yeah. You do need the correct paperwork, right? As long as you get a title company that has experience doing subject to deals, they'll do everything for you. It's real estate to people business, right? That's literally what I did to learn.
Does your name go on the mortgage or just the title?
No, just the title. Just the title. You got it. Just the title. So then guess what happens? Now that seller needs to give me his password and username for the login into the online portal for like his bank account, right? So I can see the mortgage, just the mortgage bank account. That's it. As long as I get that, like the day of the transaction after we close, then we switch the information like that day. I put my email in, I put my phone number in. You get it? So now I have access to that. He no longer has access to that. And then I set it up with my bank account, with my LLC bank account. Now I'm making the monthly payments. I literally am making the monthly payment.
The name still hasn't, but the name still has not.
If you open it up, it's just somebody else's name.
Okay.
The previous seller. And it's still on his credit score. So as long as I'm paying that every single month, his credit is getting billed. So then when it comes to like foreclosures, this is a good thing because people who foreclose, what ends up happening, they get bad credit. They're not able to go on rent. It's a big problem for them. But when you buy subject to, you're helping them build their credit. They still show that because you just paid off all the arrears, and then that's how I do it, right? Pay off all the arrears and I take it over subject to, because they're like 2-3% interest rate mortgages that they got in the 2020, 2021. Right. That's what I try to go for. I don't try to go for anything higher than like 4.5%. That's too much for me, right? Yeah. And then now you have it subject to. That's exactly how it works, like step by step. It sounds easy, and it is easy. It's just you need the right people there to make sure the paperwork is done correctly. That's it.
So once you pay, like, is your goal to keep the property, like, and you keep paying for it, like, the monthly payment, and then once it's paid for, or like, what happens then?
Oh, after when you wrap the deal, right? So now, what do I have? I have a property, right?
Yeah.
The deed and title are with me, right? Yeah. The mortgage is in somebody else's name. Yeah. I'm paying for it every single month. I can choose to. I have a bunch of options, right? You can make it into an Airbnb. You can do a long-term rental, or I can just sell the entire house 100% on seller financing, or like 90%, right? Meaning, I go to you and I say, "Hey, I bought this property from a friend." Right? Yeah. You want to buy it? You can just put down 10%.
Yeah.
That's it. And I will finance the rest. You don't need the bank. You can do seller financing, but imagine doing seller financing for the whole house. So then I sell the whole house to you. You put down 10%, right? That 10% goes to pay for the realtor clause, closing costs, all that kind of stuff, right? I got to pay for that. Any difference, I'll pocket that. Now you have a house, right? Yeah. And 90% of the mortgage, I'm the lender on that mortgage. You don't see the underlying subject to
remaining. Is it just the remaining balance? Because they had an original balance before.
No, it's the whole house. So then remember, like when I purchased the property, like I'll give you a real example. Like when I took over a subject to mortgage, I took it over at 221, right? Okay, right. And then I sold the house because the ARV was at 285, so I sold the house at 285. He put down 10%, 28,500. So then the new note was 256,500.
Yes.
Yeah. So what does that mean? That means he's paying a principal and interest to me of around like, because I sold it to him at 7.25% interest. So he's paying around like just under $1,800 a month. And I owe the bank $1,100 of that. So there's like a good spread there, just over $500 that I'm taking and putting in my pocket every single month. That's what a wrap is essentially.
And that sounds crazy. Okay. So, and then, because I'm like trying to like still like, okay. And then, so you're getting that. So you have to pay $1,100 and they're paying you $1,800.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a $700 difference there that you pocket, right? Yeah. For yourself. Now that $1,100, is that goes to the original lender?
Yeah.
Like,
you got it. You got it. Yeah.
Okay.
No servicing company pays, distributes all the payments. So I don't have to do anything.
When this other person, when you sold that deal, is the mortgage still in that first person's name?
Yes, 100%.
And the first, so that never changes.
It never changes. It never changes. Yeah, I am responsible to pay that mortgage.
You're responsible for that payment no matter what.
No matter what, you got it.
You're just really just selling the title of it.
Yeah,
and that's really it. Do the banks say anything about this, or like, is there like
if they find out, they can call something. They can do something called a due on sale clause. Right. Yes. But there's like a bunch of things you can do to overcome that. It depends on the state that you're in. You got to speak to an attorney, like a land contract. You can do like lease option with your stuff. Because when you do subject to, you're also getting power of attorney over the mortgage. Like I said, there's a lot of paperwork involved, right? Okay. So you just have to make sure you have the right people involved. Yeah.
Okay. So the mortgage, the existing mortgage, the name never changes, or the person who has that mortgage never changes. You're just transferring title from yourself to that other person, and then that other person who you sell the deal to, they are basically paying a new interest rate. They're paying a new payment to you, and then you always keep making that payment on the existing mortgage.
Yeah. So you're making the spread between the two interest rates.
Yes.
That's what it is. On the back end, I have an interest rate for 3.75%. On the front end, I sold it at 7.25%. So I have a spread there, and that's the difference that I'm essentially making. So that's one thing, right? And then there's another thing. Remember, like this, I didn't buy a deal at $300,000 and sell it for $250,000, right? I bought it at $221 and sold it at $285,000. Right? Right. So then when I did that, because I just took over the mortgage and all I had to pay for was like closing costs and the wholesale. That's it. Yeah. Right.
So then when I took over that mortgage, now there's a spread in the equity, right? The new note is what, 256,500, and then I owe 221. So there's a spread there of 35,500.
Correct.
Right? So let's say 3 years from now or 5 years from now, this guy who bought this house for me decides to refinance with a different bank, so he can pull some money out because the rates went down and the value went up. Let's say.
Yeah. If he can buy you out. He could buy you out.
Yeah. So what will happen? The new bank will pay off that 256,500 or whatever is left owing.
Yes.
Right. And then the balance will get paid to the subject to mortgage, the mortgage that's on someone else's name, and then I get what in the bank account? I get $35,500.
Yes, correct.
At the end of the deal. So right, Now if you're a wholesaler, right, or you have a capital partner, and you can pay yourself to do this deal in the beginning, and then you can get paid monthly spread, split that with the other guy, and then you can also get paid at the end. So it's a great way to like get paid in the beginning, middle, and end.
And you can really do these deals with hardly any money down, like in a sense, like because
you don't need to qualify.
No, you don't need to qualify.
No, the arrears, or your entry fees will be what the arrears, if there is any, right?
Yes.
And the transaction coordinator, the realtor, the wholesale fee. If there's a title company or attorney, like those are the things that you'll be paying for, right? Yeah. So, out of pocket, you might be like $30,000 out of pocket.
So why would a seller do this type of deal or a subject to type of deal?
One? The
original. Yeah, the original person who had the mortgage and was in arrears. Why would they do a subject to deal when they could put it on the MLS and sell it or something like that?
Here's why. So like I bought like my properties, or right now I'm buying them in San Antonio, Texas. Right. Yeah. So because I'm focused in that market, there's a lot of properties, there's a lot of supply. I don't know if you know about Texas, but So then think about it. Like they owe 221 plus they actually have a solar debt on it.
Yeah.
Right. So they owed like $40,000 to that solar debt as well. But they're trying to sell it for like 285, right? Yeah. And if anyone comes in, they're still gonna have to owe money to either the solar company or the bank, because they don't have enough money to cover for the closing costs or anything. They need someone to come in, right? They need some. They're gonna end up owing money, and they don't have money because they're already like behind on their mortgage payment. But I'm coming in saying, hey, I'll pay for the closing costs. I'll pay for all the entry fees.
And you pay off that solar debt.
End up paying. No. So I took over the payment on the solar debt, and then when I sold the house, I said, "Hey, whoever's buying it, it's your responsibility to take over the payments of this." So I was no longer. You get what I did there? So now I created a free equity spread there. So, because it's hard to buy under market, right? You need to like have good reasons. Either something has to be wrong with the property, and you got to show, hey, I have to pay $30,000, so give me $30,000 discount on this. Or like, what else are you gonna do? In my scenario, like if there was a house with solar panels on it, then I try to use that and try to transfer that debt overward to the other person. You just have to be creative and figure out ways to be able to buy lower, right?
Yes.
In order to do a wrap, but wraps don't work in every situation, right? Sometimes the deal is bad for a wrap. You shouldn't be doing wraps, right?
Like what? What's an example of that?
Like for example, if like the market is down now, there's a lot of people who have negative equity in their house because they purchased, when they bought their house, they have a mortgage of $300,000.
Yeah.
But then the house is only going to sell for $270,000. There's nothing you can do, and they have arrears on top of that.
Yeah, you can't wrap that.
You can't wrap. Like if you do try to wrap it, you're going to lose money because when the end buyer decides to like refinance you out or sell the house or something, and you get paid out, you're going to owe money. You know what I mean? Like it puts you in a very bad situation. So it's a little bit tougher now.
So it's a little bit tougher now.
It's just like it works in high interest rate markets. It's just that it works. It's like any deal. Not every house works with long-term rental.
Correct.
Right. So then, if it doesn't work as a long-term rental, what can it work as? Can it work as an Airbnb, a midterm rental? Can it work as a wrap? You just have to look at the different exit strategies to see what it works as, and then just for the property. That's it. Right.
I like it. I like it.
And you know what the best part is? So now, what do I have after I do a wrap? I have a note.
Yes.
Right. So I have a note. Now, when you have a property, you have a hard asset. What can you do? You can go to the bank and get collateral. You can use it as a collateral to get money, right? To get debt,
yes,
mortgage,
yes,
right? Or like a HELOC or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You can use a note. Now there are rules around this. I know, especially for wraps, but in theory, like I'll break it down for you. So you can use a note to not get a HELOC, but it's called like note hypothecation, where you use a note to get a loan against the note.
Yeah. Wow. Even though there's already a loan associated with it.
So here's where it gets complicated. So let's start with the simple thing. Let's just say you bought the house cash, right? And then you sell or finance it. Now you have like a note for, I don't know, $100,000.
Yeah.
Right? So you can go to a certain like financial institutions. There's a bunch of them, like Emery Note Exchange is one. There's like a bunch of like holding companies too. Like you just Google it, you'll find a bunch. Right? You can go, you can tell them everything, and then they will give you like probably like 50 grand or 30 grand. It depends on the where you bought the house, what the application was, and stuff like that. And why are they doing that? Because they hold on to the note while you take your money out. So if you were down for your entry fee or anything like that, and this was a good deal that the wrap was structured well, then you can get all that money back. So essentially, like Alberta, how you're able to get the money back, you can do that with obviously it is risky, right? And a lot of these loans are interest only loans. You have to understand what you're doing.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can you can
screw yourself over, right? Yeah. Yes. So that's on the one end. Another thing you can do is called note partial if you don't want to take on debt. What's a note partial? Remember, simple example: if you're just going and you have a note for $100,000, you just bought it in cash and sold it, right?
Yeah.
And you're getting monthly payments. You can sell 3 to 5 years of those payments at a discount. Right? Because remember, like you're getting interest and principal. So that note, the payments on it is probably like $200,000, right? Because that's the value of the whole mortgage that you can pay over the 30-year term or whatever. Well, 5 years of that, today you can give to like a financial institution for like, 20% off. And they will give you that money and they hold the note. Now you have the money up front. 5 years later, you get that note back and you continue to get the monthly payment. Unless, of course, there's a refinance or something like that. So that's called a note partial, right? This is just like the kind of like the foundations of it. There's a lot more to it, and you can play around with all three of these things. But
so how did you back up? How did you get into this? Like, how did this come about for you?
By accident. I was because I was doing real estate here in Ontario, Canada, and I was growing my portfolio. I wanted to do just like real estate in the States because non-paying tenants in Ontario suck. Experience that, right? I'm still I still have partners here, and real estate is a people business. But because I have a network here, I'm still doing real estate here. It's just I wanted to do it in the States too, so I joined the subject community. I learned about it there. I was trying to buy properties just as long-term rentals. That's it. Yeah. Right, and it wasn't working in that market. It just wasn't working, and I'm like, man, what can I do? And I was looking at the different dispositions, and I really wanted to buy a deal, and then I realized, okay, this could work. On the deal that I found, right, through this wholesaler. So I'm like, and then they helped me, they walked me through everything as well. And then, I talked to a bunch of community members there who've done it. So then, one by one, when you talk to people, you just learn stuff, right? Little by little, I just learn stuff.
How many Canadians would you say are in this group? And are you one of the only ones? And is this something?
In the beginning, it felt like I was the only one, but now there's we had a meetup here in Toronto, actually. For the stuff in GTA, I guess.
Yeah,
and, there was about 15 people that showed up. I think that was cool. Yeah. I mean, the whole subject community members 12,000 people. So I mean, 15 people. Not a lot, but hey, that was good. Yeah, I know it's still quite a few people. Yeah, people from Guelph drove down and all over Ontario.
Wow. I like it. I mean, you're getting cash flow from the deal. There
are bad things to it. You're not building generational wealth.
That's one of the things that I was going to say.
You can run it as a business, right? Because when you're building a business, you have equity in the business, right? That's very different from someone who's just a solarpreneur trying to buy real estate from him or herself.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's the thing. You don't have that debt pay down where you can you refinance every 3-5 years or something like that. You don't have that.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of downsides to it. It's just you gotta pick. Maybe you can have a bunch of wraps, as a small part of your portfolio.
Yeah, right? Something like that.
It's just an exit strategy that's available to people. That's all. But and there are people I met someone who he has a wholesale business, but he also has $6 million worth of wraps that he's completed, so in note value, $6 million worth across several properties, right? And they did that because a bunch of properties that they wholesale that they kept for themselves that they realized they were just good for wraps and they're just gonna wrap them themselves. So that's what they did. Like, that's higher level though.
Yeah.
Not level, right?
Yeah.
So there
but
are
it shows you what you can do, though. It shows you what you can do with them.
Exactly. And to go back, and to go back, like with the hypothecation with wraps, a lot of these institutions, they don't like the underlying debt owing, and they see that as a risk. And usually, what they'll ask you to do is to pay off that if you want to get like a loan from that financial institution. That way, they're just like assessing their risk, right? That's what banks do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or institutions do. So then, in that scenario, if you want a loan, for that spread, the difference, then you kind of have to just go out and find a private money lender.
Okay.
And they will do that because they hold on to the loan. That's all. Yeah. Right. And you'll get paid out in the refinance. The only problem is if the person who bought the house stops paying, but then they got to know you're gonna foreclose on them.
And they're gonna foreclose on them. Exactly.
So then you take over the property. Right. So it's
so you're not really gonna lose. Yeah, you're not really gonna lose that way.
Yeah, I mean, the holding cost is what really like people don't talk about when you're foreclosing. There's holding cost. It's like when you buy a house, there's holding cost for like trying to rent it out. People don't really add that in there, but you got to take that into account. There will be a small loss, but it's not that bad. Right, in the grand scheme of things. Yeah.
So what is the future have for you? What's in store for the future? What are your plans as far as continuing in the U.S. market? Like, what are you thinking?
Build a business, because that's what I'm all about, right? Like here, I'm closer to it here in Canada than I am in the States. But I am networking with a lot more people now in the States than I ever have before, right?
Yes.
So finding partners.
And this is going to be a business around subject to, or
so my whole thing in Canada was the BRRRR method. Okay. Right? Just applying the BRRRR method on properties and buying and holding for the long term. That's it. Right? BRRRR it's a little bit tough in this market right now because the appraisal values are coming down. So you have no choice but to wait 3 to 5 years to get your money out. Yeah. So you got to be able to find partners that can sustain that kind of and that's tough. That's so tough, right? So honestly, right now I'm just buying these single family houses for myself.
For yourself.
And just networking, really. I did like an underwriting course. I got certified in that, so that's one thing as well. Just some more active income. But eventually, build a business around it, right?
Okay.
I feel like eventually things will just fall into place. The more people you meet, eventually you'll find the right partners, and then you just go from there, right?
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens. It might be a wrong subject too. It might just be
like traditional.
We'll see. Yeah.
It's going to evolve. It will grow and evolve and change.
Yeah. You can technically do the BRRRR method with the subject too as well, right? Instead of buying it cash, if there's an existing mortgage with only like $50,000 on a house that's worth $100,000, then you can take that over subject to and seller financing, right? So you can get a lower rate than what there is out there right now. And then all you have to do is just do the underwriting, do the math, and make sure that whatever money that you're spending, or you can do an innovation agreement too, or whatever money you're spending, that you're making sure that a private money lender can come in, or your JV partner that's putting the money in there, that they'll be okay to keep that in there, right? Or for cash flow or something like that. You can be as creative as you want, right?
That's the beauty of real estate. That's the beauty of real estate. There's so many different ways that you can structure deals, that you can do deals. Be creative.
I feel like the hardest thing in real estate is talking with gatekeepers. Everyone has a skill set, and trying to explain things to real estate agents. Sometimes they'll just cut you off. Nope, my client doesn't want to hear it. I'm like, how do you know?
You don't even know that he doesn't want to hear it. How do you know? Did you ask him? Did you talk to them?
That's the tough part, but
you gotta. It's that's just part of the business, right? You're always gonna have those naysayers. You're always gonna have the people that are like, no, you can't do it. We don't believe it. It's not gonna work. But at the end of the day, it's our job, as an entrepreneur, it's our job as the person, to figure it out and find the way around it until you get to your goal, right? That's the that's the most important part, right? Just really trying to navigate it.
Yeah, pretty much. But, so do you have any last words? Because I know we're running out of time.
No, I mean, so you said kind of like what your your goals are in the future to build a business.
Yeah, around real estate.
Around real estate. That's awesome. And then I guess, do you have plans that you want to buy and hold like your own properties in the US as well? Like and build a portfolio there, or is it solely going to be in Canada?
Like the ones that I have in Canada, we're gonna probably amalgamate it and just put it keep it under a holding corporation and try to see if we can run it as a business as well.
Okay.
But like that's kind of the plan, right? Buy and hold, because like when I raise money, I'm bringing in partners.
Yeah.
Right. So then they're gonna own a portion of the real estate as well.
Yeah.
Right. Each deal is gonna be a little bit different, right? So we'll see. I feel like it's just a journey, right? The goal is here, and know what to do for the next step. So my focus is just doing the next step, but the dream is there. So one by one, take baby steps, taking the next step, putting the next foot forward.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's literally it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think for us it's the same. I mean,
and you guys are doing something big. You guys are doing something big with the education portion of it. That's impressive.
Yeah, like I think that's it's the same thing. Build out this business, build out Beyond Borders, and really, like you said, build a community around education and just letting people know that there's so many different alternatives, right? Like have you, Keith, the expert on Subject 2 and RAPS, for Canadians that are looking to do something similar to that structure. Having the long-term rentals, the short-term rentals, like all of these things. So our goal is to kind of try to create that platform that can wrap everything together. I love that word. That's a great word. I'm going to just keep using it for everything now. But like tie everything together. So that way that community just grows. And I feel like down there's just a lot of opportunity. So for myself and for us, our goal is just to kind of keep building this platform, keep growing, keep building the portfolio, and hopefully get more Canadians educated and interested in the U.S. market, just in general. Period.
Yeah. So how can people find you? Like, if they wanted to, embark on Beyond Borders, like the first day, where do they find you? Do you have a website?
Yeah, so our website is actually launching. I just did a whole revamp of our website, so it was down for a little bit, and it's coming back online on Monday or Tuesday of next week, probably Monday. And it's just beyondbordersgroup.com, and they can find me on social media at Dr. Chad Beyond Borders. I still keep that. I still keep the doctor. I still keep the doctor. So Dr. Chad at Beyond Borders. For the Instagram, and then we're on YouTube as well. Beyond Borders YouTube channel is there, just growing, just getting it started. So really, all of this stuff is new, and it's going to be fresh and just like a new movement for Canadians. So that's the easiest way to find it. Yeah,
awesome, man. I love it. So thank you again. I really appreciate the fact that you hopped on a call with me and everything. So
of course, thank you, and obviously we're going to do it again, and. I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Awesome. Take care.
All right, Keith. Have a good one.